and welcome to the Sprint30 review. Sprint just ended Monday, and as usual, we are doing the Sprint review on today, on a Wednesday. Next slide, please. All right, so I'll give the overview of the Sprint statistics. Greg Blomquist will talk about providers. Dan will talk about the user interface. Greg McCullough will talk about tenancy and reconfigure options. Greg Tanzillo will talk about the Appliance core. Alberto will talk about the REST API. Rich will talk about SmartState and storage. Next slide, please. All right, so this was our record sprint. We had 276 pull requests merged. So there you have a pie chart kind of showing the breakdown of what was merged. So kind of a healthy mix, a little bit, 97 enhancements and 84 bugs. And that looks like it's about 2/3 of the pie, and then everything else sprinkled in, which is a really healthy mix. Next slide, please. And if we break them down by feature category, we see that the UI took up the bulk as is usual, with tenancy and providers kind of taking the two bigger chunks next to it. And if we break down the providers, we'll see that those colors are a little bit hard to read, but it looks like containers we had 12, and on OpenStack we had 10, and OpenStack Infra 6. So kind of shows our focus of where we're spending our energies. Next slide, please. All right, on the various tools that we use, Gymnasium, we're down to 47 yellows, so 47 gems that are behind the latest, which is not so bad. It's about a quarter of our gems. And then if we look deeper on Gymnasium itself, those gems are further broken down by what goes into an appliance versus what's used by tests. So I think that's also like a 50-50 breakdown. On coveralls, we're not really getting good statistical kind of numbers. They keep jumping around. So I saw that before it was up around 50. Now it's at 46.5% coverage. We will keep monitoring it and see what we can come up with there. On Hakiri, which is one of the ways that we measure security service that we use, it verified a bunch of our code. 33 areas were verified, and only 3 weak cross-site scripting warnings. Similarly, we have a Brakeman. We also run Brakeman to do the security analysis, and Brakeman is down to 4 warnings. So pretty healthy clip. The goal is to try to get down to 0 Brakeman warnings, and I'm hoping to, and maybe 0 Hakiri warnings. Maybe we can get there this sprint. Next slide, please. All right, these are the stats for all the other repos that we work on, at least the ones that have changed over the last sprint here. So as you can see, the bulk of them is in the ManageIQ repo. The ManageIQ appliance got 11. Azure Armrest got 9, kind of showing our progress on the Azure integration. The ManageIQ appliance built 7. Linux admin, which we use to kind of interface to Linux, especially on the appliance, I got 5. And then you can see some of the other ones there. So, you know, we're not just working on ManageIQ. There's kind of an umbrella on GitHub that we're working under. Next slide, please. All right, over to Greg Blomquist.
All right, hi everyone. So you'll have to excuse me. I'm trying to get over this head cold, but I promise I'll still be my peppy self. So Sprint30, we had a lot of great updates for providers. So first, let's look at OpenStack. Ladislav on the OpenStack integration team, he cleaned up how we're handling pagination from the OpenStack APIs. So previously we had several different implementations of how to deal with the different ways that OpenStack APIs paginate their data. And Ladislav pulled this all together under one place to make it easier to maintain as these OpenStack APIs evolve. He also added more data models to represent the neutron networking from OpenStack. This is the first step down the path of ManageIQ really understanding cloud networking and should set the stage for implementing better management for software-defined networking in ManageIQ. So I'm really looking forward to that. I think that'll be something that we can that'll be really exciting to see come in. Another change for OpenStack came from yours truly. I fixed up how we manage our RabbitMQ queues when collecting events from OpenStack. So before, mainly because I really didn't understand RabbitMQ that well, we were leaving behind queues in RabbitMQ, even after ManageIQ disconnected from OpenStack. And now we're doing a better job of cleaning up after ourselves. Next slide. So the last change from OpenStack on the OpenStack support that I wanted to bring up comes from, again, from Ladislav. He added support for Keystone v3 authentication. And I know the first question from like Brad Eskar and John Hardy will be, does this also add domain support? And the answer is no, not yet, but it will support authenticating via Keystone v3 API. Next slide. I'm going to hand over to Dan to talk about the Azure Instance Power Operation. So last sprint, we saw Dan and Brona present some of the progress in Azure with inventory collection and power operations through the Armrest API. And this sprint, Dan integrated the Armrest API into ManageIQ and put together a quick video. So over to Dan.
Can you all see that?
Yeah, now we can.
Okay. So here I've already set up a cloud provider, and I'm going to turn on and off, or turn off and on a Windows 2008 server VM that we have set up, and go into the UI here, and you can see that the power state is on. So I'm going to stop it, and it has initiated the stop there. And then I'm going to this is the new portal, just so you can see that it is stopping. It'll take a couple seconds here, not long. There you can see it is in the process of stopping. And if we go back to the app, I can refresh that, and you can see that the power state is now off. It isn't actually stopped yet, but stopping or stopped is considered off for our purposes. And in a few more seconds here, it will actually completely stop. There we go. Back to the app. Let's restart it. See how it looks in the portal. I did not mean to click on CPU percentage there, so ignore that. And there we go. So it says updating instead of starting, but it is starting. And it'll just be a couple seconds. And if we go back here and refresh the power state, you can see that it is back up and running. And that is it.
Great, thanks, Dan. Marianne, if you want to steal the slides back. Jump to the next slide. Okay, so one more video to show off. Federico in the container management integration team worked on getting SmartState analysis completed for containers this sprint, and he put together a video to show it off. So I'm going to steal the control here and show that.
Hi everyone, my name is Federico, and this is an early peek to the SmartState analysis for container management in ManageIQ. So let's log in our instance. And let's head over to our container images. So it is possible to execute SmartState analysis on multiple images selected. But for this example, we will just pick one and see that it actually doesn't contain any package at this time. So we'll go ahead and perform the SmartState analysis. If we go to the backend side, you'll see that a new pod will be created. Let's see here, that will be used to scan the image. It takes a little bit of time for the pod to be provisioned, but it is already up and running now, and the analysis of the image started. It is actually transferring several important files from the pod using WebDAV. So it takes a little bit of time, and it's actually already scanning the software as we see here, and that's completed already. So we can go back to our image and reload the page. And we will actually see that the packages are all listed here. So this time, the SmartState analysis is triggered from the UI, but we are planning to automate this process as well. Thank you.
All right, Marianne, if you want to steal the slides back. So that's the last thing from the provider side. Really exciting stuff. Really cool to see the other teams putting together really exciting additions to ManageIQ. So over to Dan C to talk about UI.
Good morning, everybody. All right, so on the user interface side, we've been really busy actually. 123 total merged PRs. 47 of those are enhancements, which include some of the things I'm going to talk about, as well as a lot of pattern fly styling and things like that. 51 bugs, so still chasing bugs from prior bugs, as well as new things that are cropping up in the latest master upstream because of a lot of refactoring that's going on and things. So I'm going to show you some of the new out-of-the-box tenancy roles that we've created. We're tracking obviously along with the tenancy upgrades, so we're trying to keep the UI up to date as things on the back end are changing. Also, some ongoing styling changes that we've made, just some small highlights there. We've changed the file uploads to be more consistent with our other pattern fly styling. The dashboard widget's got a little minor upgrade to pattern fly as well. And throughout the UI, we're almost, I think we're about 99.9% complete with all of our forms being converted and our lists being converted to Patternfly as well. And then I've got a short demo of the self-service UI, that team along with Booz Allen and our UX designers and my team, we've all been pretty much trying to get this ready for prime time, and it's finally actually ready for a demo. There are still some work to be done, but I think it's going to be cleaned up pretty much in the next release. So next slide. So there's 2 new out-of-the-box tenancy roles. Obviously, with tenancy, we're going to need to kind of delegate responsibilities to different types of administrators. So this is kind of new to CloudForms, where we or ManageIQ, to where we used to pretty much have a super administrator, and anybody that could kind of administer everything. So we had to chop up the access control area and allow visibility into groups and roles, and you can see tenants there as well as users. So a tenant administrator would be able to deal with all of this. In other words, assign users to groups, put groups into tenants, etc. So then there was also one more tenancy role that we created. Next slide. And this is the tenant quota administrator. So this administrator, he can't like move around tenants and put users in and out, but we want them to be able to manage the quotas across the different tenants. And so you can see there, they don't have access to any of the groups or the roles or the users. They can't modify the tenants, but they can see them, they can list them, and they can manage the quotas. So that would be a new type of a role. And we provide these out-of-the-box roles as samples for people to use. They can use them as they are, but a lot of times you want to mix other types of features in there, so you can copy this role and add other features or take features away as you want. All right, next slide. So just a real quick update to the file uploaders. Our file uploaders have always been kind of a standard HTML type uploaders, and Eric on my team found a really nice more stylist matches more Patternfly styles, and I think we might actually be getting the Patternfly team to be looking at using this type of uploader. So just better buttons and things, and choosing the file and stuff. Next slide. You can see here the widgets on the left are the older ones. The widgets on the right are the newer ones. Not a complete overhaul here, but you can see the slightly bigger titles. Everything's wrapped into a single area. You can kind of see that the footer part of the widgets aren't floating around. It's all attached together. So just a little bit nicer. This will be getting a lot more love in the future, probably in the next 3 to 6 months, as we look to integrate this with Patternfly and some other dashboards from other teams. All right, next slide. All right, so this is a demo. Let me share my screen and see if I can get this demo going. All right, can everybody see that?
Yep.
Great. All right, so this is a self-service UI. You notice that the login screen is very similar to the classic UI, and this is a recording, so I'm going to kick it off. But basically, we're going to walk through pretty. Accessible directly from the build. You don't have to do anything like last build where you had to kind of set things up and to get it running. It should be running out of the box. So here we go. So we're going to log in. And here we see the dashboard screen that you put on. You can see the different navigation tabs, total services, total requests. Some of these numbers are still hard coded, but here in the service area, you can see we can filter by name. We're also going to add some things where you can filter by status and stuff like that. So we just had to get some filters in there. Okay, you can actually drill into these. See the bigger icon. You can see you can do some of these buttons now. So you can remove a service. You can retire either immediately, or you can schedule a retirement for the future. So I've got those features in there. See, there's a date control and stuff. You can actually edit the service, so just like in the classic UI, you can edit the name and the description of your services. This area down here will be replaced real shortly. It's really just kind of dumping out data for that we can see what's the service is made of. In the request area, same kind of stuff. Filter requests. Here we're going to refilter for just the pending ones. Also can drill into these, see that same information. That bottom information, again, that'll be replaced as well with more information about how the request was created. Here's a service catalog where you would order things. Nice big tiles. Probably going to get a little bit more information on those tiles. This is the dialogues that we actually show. And that was a little too quick probably on the dialogues, but the dialogues will basically run as they do on the classic UI, but will not quite have all the features once the next sprint is done, but we're trying as hard as we can to get most of those features in. So that's the status of it. Look for next sprint to have a pretty fully feature complete and definitely more styled version of the self-service UI. All right, so that's it for the UI. You can steal back the slides if you want. Do we have Greg for Tenancy?
Greg, you available?
Okay, so this is Keenan. So around tenancy, most of our work has been associating a tenant to requests and services so that a service we will know which tenant's associated with, and also getting the tenant information to flow through the MIQ request and the MIQ request tasks so that Automate will be able to work upon this. And also now in the UI, when you in a dropdown, you actually set the group on a VM. It will go ahead and set the tenant ownership so that VMs now in the UI changes are setting that. Is our screen blinking around a little bit?
Somebody tried to. We need to get back to the slides.
Okay, I hadn't prepared. And then the tenants are also tagged. Madhu, do you want to touch the Automate side? Okay, I can.
I did.
Keenan, you want to take it?
Sure. Okay. So so on the Automate side, we implemented domains so that you have the ability to see those domains that are above you. So we're very close to having this implemented on the Automate side, but at least in the UI, you can you can state. You can view domains that are owned by your parent tenant and also those that are owned by you. And in Automate, we are setting the domain property when we're creating the domain. So they are scoped by the tenant, and this allows different tenants to have different Automate models that they will be able to call. We also updated a couple of service models so that they're associated with tenants, and also the import and the export. We made some changes so that when you're exporting when you're exporting a domain, it has the tenant associated with it, and when you're importing it, you can go ahead and set that. That's all set in the UI and the backend. So I think there's one part outstanding on that one. Next slide.
Hey, can you guys hear? Can you hear us?
Please take it.
Yep. So thanks for jumping in there, Keenan. Mawa's muted, so nobody here was able to speak. So thanks for running through the tenant stuff. Also in the sprint, we got Reconfigure supported for Rev. We've supported this for VMware for a while. So now you can also reconfigure the hardware on Rev machines. And if you jump to the next screen, please. So once you select Reconfigure, you get the option to do memory and or the processors, and processors broken down into sockets and cores per socket. And then once you submit it, next screen, this will generate a request showing basically what changes you've requested, as well as this goes through the approval process. So it could be auto approved or require manual improvement or approval. And yep, that's pretty much that one. It works the same as the VMware model. So jump to the next screen. Also around Reconfigure, but this is quite a bit different, is supporting reconfiguration for the orchestration templates and services that you've ordered. So when you're creating a new catalog item for an orchestration template, the Reconfigure entry point is now available. And we've updated the ManageIQ automate domain to include a state machine and methods that kind of give you the framework of how you would go about reconfiguring a service. And you jump to the next screen. I think it's just once you have an entry point provided for that catalog item under configurations, you get the configure option and becomes available. Once you click on that, it goes back to the dialog that you ordered the service from, and fields can be enabled or disabled, allowing you to change the options and submit that request. And I think that's it. On to the next slide.
Okay. Sorry. On the core appliance side, it was a pretty busy sprint as well. So we got 57 PRs merged across 3 different repositories. On the core appliance side, we upgraded the Linux admin gem with several enhancements. So now using the gem, you could do things like power operations on the appliance itself. You can start, stop, restart the application. You can set and get the appliance host name. There's going to be more of those to come. Nick's been working on this stuff as a prerequisite for some other work that he's doing. So expect more in Sprint31 for that. This stuff has kind of been shuffled around. Originally there was a shell script that you had to call to get this stuff, execute some of this stuff, and he's been moving that stuff into Linux admin as first class operations. So now, from native Ruby, you can actually call these functions without having to shell out. Sorry, can you guys go back one slide? Yeah. Also, we created separate file systems on the appliance for STIG compliance. So now the var log, audit, home, and temp are all individual separate file systems. Now, if you go to the next slide, there's a screenshot of the before and after. So there's the Sprint29 nightly layout. And then you can see on the Sprint30 one, you could see those volumes on separate file systems there. So just for really good for reference. Okay, next slide. Okay, on the application side, Works is continuing to add core support for self-service UI. So now, with the help of Jason and Alberto and even myself, we have self-service UI being built on the nightly build on the appliance, so you can actually access that if you stand up an appliance and go to /self-service at the end of the URL. Okay. Also, we've made some updates in the back end for being able to serve pictures directly from the database. It was working where at least for the admin UI, it was on demand syncing those images to disk. That wasn't working out so well for some of the APIs that needed to also serve up those images or reference those images through URLs. So Alberto went and reworked that back end, so now it's all serving directly from the database. And then for tenancy, we've been making progress there, continue to make progress there. So we've got in the logic to assign manage objects to tenants upon creation. We finished the first 2 phases of scoping manage objects within a tenant, so that when you're within a tenant, you only see the objects that belong to that tenant. And the second phase is about seeing manage objects that belong to child or parent tenants, and that's based on business rules that we've implemented in the backend code. And that's pretty much it. There's been, as usual, there's been lots of enhancements on the API side, and I'll turn it over to Alberto to talk about those.
Next slide, please. Okay. So there have been quite a few enhancements to the APIs to support the self-service UI. So the first enhancement was for the token manager, where previously we have a configuration for the API for the 10-minute, but that was not that's not good enough for UI type client. So we've added a requester type parameter when you get a token, and that would honor the web admin session timeout. So a token right now includes its own TTL, and it gets reset upon use. So it's easier to use now with UI type clients. That's the one enhancement. The other one was we're starting to introduce the set ownership action to kind of mimic what we have in the admin UI. So we started with a CI. Here, owners can be specified by ID href, name user ID, and groups by ID href for the group description, the group name. So yeah, you can set ownership to an individual service, or if you want to do that to multiple, you can post to the collection and specify them all in one shot. So that's the other enhancement. So next slide, please. So previously we had introduced a way to provide the image href, the path to the image for the service templates, but we needed to do the same for services and service requests. So we kind of went with the same signatures. Essentially, it's asking for the image href attribute of the related picture object. So the virtual attribute reference picture.image href will give you the same for service requests, or templates. Next enhancements was custom action buttons and dialogues. So in version 1 and 2, as far as services, you can only do the basic ordering of a service off of a template, but we did not support any of the custom actions buttons or service dialogues that can be designed in the web admin UI. So what we have done is allowing the querying of those custom actions either via just the set of actions with a custom action button, or custom action which gives you the hierarchical representation with the button groups. So that can be queried there. And in the backend, also in the API, when you query a service template, a service that has been ordered, you will see in the actions returned the additional actions that are driven from the custom buttons. So you can actually now provide these actions to the services, which is really cool. All right, on to the next slide, please. One before. Alrighty. Okay, so yeah, so Tim did a couple of cool enhancements that we needed. There was an ask to be able to update the password of a user, and that's the signature we have up there. So system that embed and build the appliance all from APIs that can also go ahead and set the admin passwords to fine tune all that. So that was available there. Maybe? Okay. Yeah. All right. The other enhancement Tim did is we have now full CRUD support for categories and tags. We had to revamp or redesign some of that because the classifications earlier was kind of confusing. So we kind of went with a model that's as closer to what customers are used to from a UI perspective. You deal with categories and tags. So you delete as well as adding tags to particular categories, and the full CRUD is available there. So really, really good work that was moved into the sprint. And that's it. Next slide, please. Off to Rich.
It's closer to the microphone. Thank you. Okay. Next slide.
Rich, you going to speak?
Don't overshoot it. Okay, quickly, a couple of annoying issues fixed this sprint. The SmartState task timeout is now honored. This was an issue. Not only wasn't it using the defined timeout period, when it did timeout, it would report that it actually did use a different value. So it was just confusing on multiple levels, and that has been fixed. For storage, SmartState, this isn't for VMs. There was some checks for storage types that would actually prevent us from analyzing storage we didn't recognize. We've then updated our list basically, so now we can analyze storages that we haven't seen in the past. In addition, Mo's been working on documenting virtually everything that he can see in the product, in the project. And there's a pointer to the current talk topic, and there are database diagrams and documentation. Hopefully that'll be a living document and make it easier for people to understand how the pieces fit together, and make it easier for us to decompose it, modularize it, and add new features to it going forward. Next slide. Okay, one thing basically has been implemented but didn't make the sprint. It is an outstanding PR. In OpenStack, we've encountered raw disks, and because of the nature of raw disks, where you can't really probe the contents to determine the format, so we were failing. So now we kind of use the metadata from OpenStack to determine if it's a raw disk or not. So that problem's been resolved, and that should be in the code base shortly. And that's it. Next slide.
All right, so that concludes our sprint review. At least the demo parts. I'll open it up to questions. I see Tom Hennessy have a question.
Yeah, there's one question
from Tom, right? For the new Greg T. For the new file systems, is the utilization monitored as the current file systems are?
Sorry, what's the question? What's the current? I guess it depends on where the monitoring is done, because the volumes, just the underlying file systems have been changed supporting them. So I'm not sure if that answered the question. I think probably going to need to look at what that is, because I'm not.
Okay.
This is Dan.
John Hardy is commenting that the out-of-the-box alert profiles will need updating to support the new file system layout. So I guess I have a question, and maybe this is something that we can discuss internally, but the new layout that we saw for the ManageIQ appliance, I'm assuming we're going to have something very similar on the product side? And if so, then we're going to need to kind of deal with some of these out-of-the-box alert profiles on both sides.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, cool. All right. Any other questions or comments out there?
This is Dan. I was looking at the Linux admin came out there. Looks really nice. But there's not a lot of documentation for it. I was just going to suggest maybe updating that to advertise all the cool stuff it can do.
Good idea, Dan. Thanks. Anybody else? All righty. Well, if there's no more questions or comments, I want to thank everyone for a great job despite the audio issues from Mawa. And we'll see you again in 3 weeks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.